Salutations everyone, welcome to another Overwatch 2 video where today I'm going to show you the scoreboard first. And then you in the comments, before the rest of the video goes, tell me what stands out to you the most. I'll give you a hint. It's not me. It's not me on Orisa going 40-1. That just tells you the final score of the game. That's the final score where you go, whoa, that was a blowout. Clearly, any tank that goes 40-1, that's a blowout, right? But why did this happen? Like, that's just the final score. Let's get into the nitty gritty. What caused this? Who threw the interceptions? Who fumbled the ball? You know, what was the tale of the actual tape? Have you found it yet? The answer is right here. Mercy. 1 death. 11,000 heals in a 9-minute game. That is what sticks out to me. That is the tale of the tape. That is, oh damn, they allowed 180 yards rushing. Like that was clearly the issue there, right? Or man, they couldn't convert on 3rd down. I'm using football analogies if you aren't catching up. But like that is why we won. My stats just tell you that we won. But why we won is the mercy here. And that's part of the problem. A lot of people recently have been talking about why competitive feels bad. And, you know, the more famous ones out there are commenting about the psychological part of it when it comes to numbers going up and down and ranks and things like that don't have anything to do with the gameplay. And while that is valid, and they do list a lot of problems that only affect a couple thousand people in the whole world, they still have valid points. But to me, that is absolutely secondary. It has to do with the gameplay. And there's a lot of things that are going on here. What's the other thing that might stand out to you? If you thought my support was the reason why we won, like I do, take a look at the enemy supports. One of them didn't even get 3k healing in 9 minutes. 11 deaths. The other one, 12 deaths. Sounds like a blowout, right? Well, let's take a look at the actual tape as we start on attack here. Numbani as Orisa. So most people are going to go 50-50 on all their games, right? It's really easy in this game to stay stagnant, no matter what level you are. Sometimes you'll maybe go up a little bit, and other times you'll go down a little bit, probably just as often. And you could say, yeah, the average person's going to go, 5-5 or what have you. They're going to be even because the law of averages. That's just how it has to work out, right? But in Overwatch, it's going to be even more likely, I feel, as you see me die there, my one and only death. So I go 40-0 from here on out. This game is a lot about adjustments. And while you're going to lose half your games and win half your games on average, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, it's not because of you. Not to say that it's always someone else's fault. It's just that most games that you lose, you would have lost no matter how well you played. Most games you win, you were going to win no matter how badly you played. That's just how the game works out because it's a team game. The carry potential in Overwatch is very, very low, especially when you compare it to other team-based games. And while, there aren't a lot of hero-based shooters out there like Overwatch, it's just you have to rely on a lot of things that are out of your control. Now, there's some things that you can do to mitigate that lack of control and your ability to pop off. Make a key ultimate, do really well on healer or tank or damage, whether it's you're taking out their tank, you're anti-ing them, or you're killing their mercy, or maybe you ate a couple ultimates as tank, right? There's a lot of small things that you can do here and there that may or may not add up to the difference in a singular team fight. And that's where the games are won and lost. Those small, micro little plays that end up making this small difference in a team fight, whereas most team fights aren't decided in a small difference. They're usually a rather sizable difference, right? But it's those small plays that you can make, those small adjustments that you can make. And I know people don't like to adjust in this game. I'm kind of weird because I play all 3 roles. I know the vast majority of players only play 1 role, and around at least half of those people only play 1 character within that role. And even at the highest level, higher levels of play, people are still making huge mistakes. Like, even in like Masters and Grandmasters, you'll find players that still seem to not have a fundamental understanding of some characters or some interactions. Where you're going to see a diva try to defense matrix against Zarya lasers that are doing 1,000 damage a second, right? You're always going to see stuff like that. No matter where you are, you're going to see, nobody stopping the Genji, or nobody shooting at the Torb turret, or a very, very, very common thing, which is understandably because it's really hard to do, shoot at the Mercy. It's really difficult to do because she's the most evasive character in the game. And some people don't charge the Zarya bubble. And some people don't know, sometimes you do want to shoot the Zarya bubble. It's a very simple, obvious, easy, like beginner level thing that you need to learn in this game that a lot of people still don't have grips on. Because once people get to a certain points, they're most likely going to stay there. So you're still, even at the higher levels of the game, you're going to see humongous mistakes and fundamental misunderstandings of how the game works and how key interactions go with each other. If Genji is jumping on you the whole time and you can't do anything about it, maybe you should swap to Moira, because most Genjis can't deal with that Moira, right? She can't be deflected with her primary fire, and she's got easy to hit primary fire, or I guess secondary fire, her damage to deal with that. And not all things are like super obvious, and a lot of things require teamwork where, as I mentioned before, you're going to win most of the games you're going to win no matter how poorly you did, or lose games that you played really, really well on, didn't matter how well you played, just because, well, you might have been great on the DPS, you were taking out their backline, or you were doing all the heals you can, you were saving and keeping things alive on the front line, but you just had a really bad tank, right? Or your DPS didn't stop their TPS, or you couldn't do fundamental things to stop a Wrecking Ball or a Doomfist. These characters that a lot of people can say, oh, use Sombra, this is easy, or, Anti. Sometimes you'll see Roadhogs actually win games because some people still don't have fundamental understandings at that interaction. And there can be a lot of reasons for that, because they don't have the experience, or they're very stubborn. A lot of people do not want to switch in this game. And that, I feel like that is a big, big mistake. A lot of people want to specialize, they want to main because it's a culture thing, I guess. I can't make heads or tails of it, but there has to be a reason for it. And what it does is that it breeds toxicity within the game, to where you have, the Widowmaker telling the Mei you should have played Mercy, right? You're getting people to argue, and that's always going to breed more negativity, and people are going to say, oh, tank diff. After the first round, oh, it's a tank diff, guys. Everything's over. Like this new word that everyone learned a year ago, people are using in every single game. Oh, it's support diff. Oh, it's DPS diff. Oh, it's tank diff. Sometimes it's like, maybe there was, but guess what? What does it actually come down to? It comes down to team diff, right? There's very few instances where you can pinpoint it to just one thing, even if it's like a Doomfist that's just hard plowing your team and you aren't making any adjustments to it, or maybe an Orisa that's not dying, which is me. Why am I not dying? Using cooldowns properly and, making plays when I have the opportunity to, but my Mercy's keeping me up. And my Mercy's not dying. So if my Mercy's not dying, I'm not dying. And that is a fundamental misunderstanding from this team. And it's going to take more than one person to make that adjustment and fix that issue. So we're just going to bully them the rest of the game. And they're, I don't know if they're in chat. Obviously, we get to see in text chat if it's available to both teams, but not chat play communications within a team. But we got to imagine they can't be just saying, good job, guys, let's try it again. I guarantee you that's not what is happening. because everyone wants to throw the word diff around because it makes them feel good for whatever reason. And that is not conducive to a winning team. You know, the DPS on your team that's going 8 and 7, that's like, oh, I'm not getting healed. That person is the problem. The person that's complaining, that's going to be the one that's the problem, because the negative Nancy that's spreading vitriol into your team communications is only going to bring everybody down. And a person that brings everybody down, the majority of their games, are going to lose most of the games. And so they're going to have a big negative impact into that team. So if you get a complainer on your team, they're probably the problem. Maybe not all the time, and maybe they have some valid points, but you are only in control of so much in this game, and that's what you kind of have to deal with. That's what you are going to have to come to terms with eventually. And obviously, yes, there are balance issues within the game. Bastion is busted as fuck, and I've been saying this for a few months now, and nobody listened to me. Everyone said I was crazy, and now we are finally getting people to say, oh yeah, actually, no, he wasn't bad last season. He was pretty good, and now he's super bonkers. And then, you know, Orisa got a buff, and it's like, well, we saw what it was like when she was this good. We already knew. Soldier got a giant buff. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. We already knew what he looks like with these buffs, and that was a problem when you brought it back. So, like, there's other back-end issues. We knew what strong Zarya looked like, and that was bad for the game. And now we're bringing back strong Zarya. Now, I know there's a lot of things like, oh, new characters, new comps, and other balance issues. It's not like a direct one-to-one, but there are mistakes made from a balancing perspective that are highly questionable and easily questioned. Like, why would you do this? Why would you buff? We've seen a Bastion meta. We've seen what happens when you make him absolutely unkillable, and his damage hasn't been touched, and he has been a problem. He has been an issue. They made everything about the character better. And Roadhog, obviously, we have to wait for the rework, right? Like, that's kind of the answer to that. There's not a lot you can do there because we've seen what it looks like when you make him OP. And so there are going to be balancing issues. We're going to have to roll with the punches. You're going to have to play what is simple and easy for you, and more likely for your team. Let's say Bastion wasn't great. Let's say Winston was really good, right? You're still not going to see a lot of Winston plays. Some people are going to try it out, but your team, even at Masters or Grandmasters, they don't know how to play with the Winston. So you just play something. If it's not working out, switch to something that you know that they can deal with. Switch to something that synergizes. If I see that I have an Orisa on my team, I'm going to want something that can apply a lot of resources into her. I'm going to want to play Life Weaver. I'm going to want to play Baptiste. If we're playing Wrecking Ball, my Baptiste pick is all of a sudden not looking so smart, right? Because my value can be better utilized elsewhere as a Mercy, as a Lucio. So not a lot of people look at how they can adapt to the situation. And a lot of it does come to character swapping, which I know people are totally against for the most part. But also it can just be an attitude adjustment, or just like, even at the highest level, I mean, top 500, you're still POC people trickling. So none of these problems get solved as you go higher up the ranks. You are only in charge of what you can do. You can't make people do things, and spreading negativity is only going to hurt your team. Positivity, you know, trying to, like, hey, just don't blame, our Cassidy, they were doing fine, or don't complain about your heals, you were jumping away and our Ana couldn't hit you. That kind of stuff doesn't go unnoticed by your other players, whether they communicate it or not. It's just going to be better for your team to not be negative and not be dropping diffs in the chat, and just stay in your lane and play what is comfortable for you and for your teammates. And if something isn't working, to just switch off, right? Stop trying to defense matrix the giant beam. Stop leaving your supports to get hunted by Sombra outside of spawn all these times. Like, they're simple things. They're super simple. Does that make them easy to execute and employ within your game plan? No, because you're going to have to need everybody to be on the same page, and that's not going to happen a lot. But guess what? That's just a game. That is not within your control. And the balance of the game does play into that a bit. But again, that's not in your control, and it will change. That character will get nerfed. Other characters will get buffed. Things are going to continuously change. There'll be new characters thrown into the game, and things are we're going to have reworks. Sombra's going to have a rework, and Roadhog are going to have reworks at mid-season for next season. So a lot of things are going to be shifting and changing. So you have to shift and change, because no one shot at the Mercy. That's such an easier thing to notice and employ. Their tank had no shot at stopping me. They didn't go for the mirror, right? Or they didn't try to go to something that could do a lot more damage. They didn't go to the Bastion or the Junkrat or something like that. So just hold your horses. I feel like some metas are going to be less enjoyable than others, and balance is going to play into a lot of that, and things don't get fixed as fast as they should. And things get nerfed when they don't need to. Things get buffed when they don't need to. I think these last 2 seasons have shown that a lot, especially when they're reneging on changes that they had just previously made in months prior that don't make sense. But at the end of the day, you're only in control of what you can control. So do your best at controlling that.